afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. And the third day of war in Ukraine is coming to an end. Today in our studio, we are talking to Alyona Bukevich, who is from Ukraine. She lived in Kiev. She is now living in London. And we just want to offer huge support to all Ukrainians all over the world and say, Slava Ukraine, long live Ukraine. And we do hope that we will stop Putin and stop his aggression. Lena, good evening.
Good evening. Героям слава.
I know it is very emotional day because the situation is getting worse and things are getting quite bad, but we cannot just sit at home. So today I went to a demonstration in London today. You've been there yesterday and you've been today. Tell us about the mood within Ukrainian diaspora in London.
Well, first of all, I really have to say it wasn't just Ukrainian diaspora who was there. The beauty of these protest meetings, they are that lots of nations really take part and support Ukrainians who come there in the first place. And it's an act of unity and act of support, and obviously the way of how we are asking the government, we are asking Boris Johnson to help Ukraine, because we believe it's not enough of the support that we are getting. We are extremely grateful for the support we've got, but our soldiers, our heroes back in Ukraine are fighting really, really hard, and they need all the support we can provide to them.
Thank you very much. Yes, I saw Lithuanian flags, Ukrainian flags, Polish flags, Belarusian flags, Romanian flags, and Russian flags as well. Yeah, so people were obviously trying to do something about it. And the question is, if we will be able to stop that aggression of Putin. The question is, what would you ask Europe now to do? Because there were many questions: to switch off SWIFT, to give Ukraine more troops on the ground, boots on the ground. They need soldiers. They need more support. The aircraft. I mean, they need basically everything. So, do you think we can really demand more, or you think? I mean, what do you think about it?
Well, what I think about it, I know that Ukraine has made tremendous efforts, and the whole world really, including Russia, never expected us to hold on for that long. And it's really, really huge and heroic effort. And I think the thing that is helping the soldiers is that they are doing the right thing and they're protecting their homes, including civilians who went as volunteers and got some basic weapons to be able to protect their families, to protect their homes. And I think that's the strength of us, because we know what we are fighting for. We are fighting to survive, basically, for our country to survive. But if you ask me what we need and why we are getting together, yeah, of course we are showing support. We want to show support, but yeah, there are a few things, very practical things that we are asking for. And one of them, and the one that is not really being considered enough, is protecting Ukrainian sky. Because the Ukrainian troops, with the existing weapons, we are working so hard on the ground, but unfortunately, we do realize it might not be enough for us to. It's just not enough. We need to protect the sky so that we can continue doing what we do on the grounds. And this is something, I think, which is being overlooked between all our demands. I know that SWIFT, Russia may be banned from SWIFT system in a couple of days, probably. I know that European Central Bank is already looking into it from technical perspective, how to do it. The question is, will it be enough? And I think it will take some time for Russia to feel the consequences of that. And Ukraine needs immediate help, and that immediate help should be coming through force. And I do understand there is a difficult geopolitical situation and all this NATO talk and everything. And there are a lot of considerations here, but to protect the skies without even sending additional troops to Ukraine is the minimum that we would want the world to do for us. Because effectively we are a shield that protects Europe and the rest of the world, that is protecting democracy and basic human rights.
I can't agree more, to be honest, because Ukraine was left exposed, completely exposed to Putin aggression, and nobody expected the Putin will attack. Then people started making assumptions, and then they started to say that maybe it's not that year, maybe it's going to be some other time. But do you think that Ukraine was prepared for this war? Do you think you knew what was happening, or it came as a shock to everybody?
I think it naturally came as a shock because no one really believed it will happen. I mean, we thought it might, but I don't think anyone could, especially our generations, we haven't seen the war. I think we have the feeling of the war in our genes, but we never seen it. We all, I think, were raised with the fear of war as something absolutely terrible, which should be avoided at any cost. And we didn't believe that there will be someone who will just go against it, especially someone who sort of survived it with us back then, like Russia fought so fearlessly in the Second World War, and the world seemed to have said never again. And here it is, never again, repeated. So
Yes.
it's really something that people don't believe because we've been through that, and the world has. In Europe, we all respect the human rights, the boundaries of the countries. Overall, that like this convention, yeah, someone might disagree with something, and there are ways of resolving this through diplomacy, through passing the laws, through petitions. No one really expected the violent way that it went. And when I woke up, and actually I did wake up at 3 a.m. that night when the attack happened on Thursday, it felt really surreal. I couldn't believe it's difficult to process. You can't expect people to process the war has started like it's something normal. And I'm glad it's not normal, because when it becomes normal, like it did in the eastern part of Ukraine, where the war was ongoing for 8 years, it's actually terrible when it becomes something a part of your everyday life. So naturally, it was unexpected in that way. But in the same time, what I must say really, that Ukrainian army has improved hugely from 2014 until now, and that's something I know from a number of friends who evidenced it themselves. That Ukrainian army 7 years ago and Ukrainian army now are at very different levels, and probably that's why we are holding up still.
Yes, it is a fantastic bravery that the army shows, that the people of Ukraine show. And I think they set up a certain level, it's example, the benchmark for all of us, how you need to fight for your freedom. Because we got quite weak, the governments of Europe show weakness in many ways. You can feel that they do show some sort of weakness when they don't want to fight, and they always say that the professional army will fight and the weapons will fight. But Ukraine shows the situation when they will fight on the streets. And we just watched this little video of people getting ready for the fight, and people getting ready with trying to put some obstacles for the tanks, the same they did in the Second World War, which is really surreal. Also, they use Molotov cocktail, and military people just giving out weapons to everybody who wants to protect and for everybody who wants to fight. And I found it's fascinating that I don't know, the brewery who makes beer started giving bottles out so that people can make Molotov cocktail. And that fascinating unity of Ukrainian people and of all people who are there come together in this enormous effort to stop Russian aggression. Is it something new for Ukraine, or it is something that Ukraine is famous for?
Well, I would say Ukrainian people are brave overall, but you really can't say from the day-to-day experience to what they're experiencing now. I think these are two completely different situations. And honestly, from myself, I don't know how I would behave in the circumstances like they are. Maybe I would run away. I can't really say. Maybe I would be a coward. Maybe I would want to hide. So I'm extremely, extremely proud. And I seriously, I almost always have tears seeing these heroic, absolutely heroic deeds of people who are just protecting all of us. So to me, it's something really fantastic. And to be honest, I don't think you can know you have it until you are in the situation where you can prove it. And to be honest, when I look at them, I don't think I would be able to be that brave. Sorry.
I
I
think
mean,
you will
I
be.
wish I would, but I don't think I can.
I think you would. We don't know what we hold inside, and we don't know who we are really. But there are lots of groups also dealing inside Kiev. The groups who are putting special marks on the buildings, and to create this artillery, the air assault markers. And I understand that Russia starts attacking kindergartens, kids' hospital, just hospitals, civilians. And I think what Russian army is famous for is attacking civilians. So I am only hoping that civilians will be able to fight it. People with whom you're talking, people on the ground who are now in Ukraine, how does it feel for them? What do they say?
Well, it really depends on the area, but for people in Kiev, it seems like it's going to be another very, very difficult night. And from what I've just read, and again, I don't want to take responsibility and say it's confirmed, but it looks like the Children Cancer Center was attacked, which just last year won a grant for extremely expensive equipment, which allowed for low invasive surgeries. So it seems like we are losing that, and I can't imagine what strategy can that be. It's not just civilians. It's think about it. What can be worse? Cancer Center for Children. So I can't imagine what could really excuse it, and decide that civilians are involved or not involved. Obviously, they are. When you look at these videos, again, I've seen these videos, but I think they are verified because they've been posted by very reliable media that Russian tanks have been destroying accidental, obviously civilian cars trying to escape the dangerous city just to do harm because there is no other purpose in it. This is really, really scary. People who are trying to get away and get some safety just for the purpose of it as a gesture. That's what they do. And I know it doesn't happen with every tank or anything, but it still happens, and it happens in the city which we used to be safe, which is where basically the whole Russian civilization starts from. It's Kiev, and that's what they do. So I don't have an excuse for that, and I don't see how you can stay aside.
Yes, so somebody saying that Ukraine is up against a superpower. Man, this is sad. I think Ukraine is against military superpower, but Ukraine has another kind of superpower, which is power of willingness of the people to fight for their rights, for their freedom. And it was enormous bravery of Ukrainian people in 2014 when they stood up to all that Putin's government and all these corrupted officials and overthrown that government. And I must admit, when I look at the government of Ukraine now, I can see that those people were elected. People did trust them. And now those guys are all in Kiev. They all protecting the city. They all fighting with everybody. They do support morale of people. And I think it's enormously fascinating to see the democracy working. And doesn't matter how much we were criticizing Zelensky, or many people were criticizing Zelensky, and before Poroshenko was criticized, and the government officials always get some critique, of course, and it's actually healthy when they do get some critique. But now I can see this enormous unity behind the government of Ukraine, enormous unity to protect that structure, to protect their democracy. Do you feel it as well?
Well, I think for us, it's not just democracy. For us, it's really the matter of well, probably it is democracy. That's the country we chose to live in. Yeah. It might not be perfect. We have been building it, and with our mistakes, and it's our own way, which we are trying to find since 1991. And yeah, it has not been easy for us. And yeah, there have been moments, but at least, this basic right of choice, which Ukraine has, I think we've been famous for protecting our right of choice through 2008, through 2014. So yeah, I think we are protecting our choice, and it's really important for us to stay with the country we chose to be back in 1991. But in terms of our new president, I think lots of people who may not have voted for him, his rating is definitely growing, and I think he deserves it. At the very minimum, he is very brave, and at the very minimum, he didn't really abandon his folks. He's staying with us, and he's doing his best.
I found it's really great that he actually standing there in the ground in the city. He didn't run away, and he had this choice, but he decided not to. And we can see the medieval president who is together with his troops, together with everybody, where the leader is expected to go in a battle together with everybody, not be sitting somewhere in a warm office, but be there on the grounds and be seen and be prepared for the worst and hold on. I think that's fascinating, and everybody see it. I'm sure all over the world that exceptional bravery is seen, understood, and it is fascinating. People are fascinated how amazingly Ukrainians just stood up and just fight this monster, this Russian Empire that is going on them and going and going and going since 2008, 2014. Do you feel the growing impact? Did you feel that growth of impact of Russian Empire getting ready to attack? Because they were sort of holding off a little bit in 2014. I mean, they annexed Crimea, they occupied part of Donbass, part of Ukrainian territories, and their appetites sort of were fulfilled, and they just started waiting, and people were thinking that probably that's it. But did you feel that they want more?
Well, I think I would say, if I speak for myself, I never, if I'm honest, I never thought about it. But I think people who are in Ukraine, and because I live in London for the last 7 years, for me it's like sometimes I wouldn't before, like if you asked me a month ago who is like the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, I wouldn't know. Just because I didn't have to. It wasn't my business. It was my country's business, and I was okay, fine. Yeah, I knew there were like some concentration of Russian troops, which was worrisome. But I think because it already happened a few times where there were these warning signs, but everything was always resolved with diplomacy. Come on, it's 21st century. But apparently it didn't. Say, I wouldn't say that I was really watching it, but probably I allowed myself not to. I never expected it to happen. So I don't know, maybe call me naive or not caring enough, but the reality is you don't expect it to happen, really.
That's very true. You don't expect somebody to start bombing your city.
Exactly.
And
yeah, the economy might not have been great, but I can always help with that. This is something within my control. Here, things happen which are beyond rhyme or reason. Because Does anyone understand the whole purpose of it? I don't think anyone does. And if I can address for a second people in Russia who I know receive lots of disinformation about the events in Ukraine, and not sure if they will be watching it, but it's really important that they know the extent of what is happening, and they know that the words like war or invasion have been, well, it's almost a treason in Russia now to call the operation in Ukraine a war. But let's be, the West world needs to be very, very honest about it. And there is no such thing as Ukrainian-Russian conflict. That's the problem. We didn't have a conflict with Russia. They just are the aggressor.
Russia had a conflict with Ukraine.
I don't think it was even with Ukraine. I do feel Ukraine is falling as collateral damage, like seriously, because if you think about it, the decision to invade, it didn't have any reason. Like, if there was a reason, it existed there like a year ago, 2 years ago, but suddenly it happens. Just because Russia is ready, just because Putin was planning it for years, I don't see it. Maybe I don't see it all, and I don't have a clear picture, but I don't see anything that has changed comparing to a year ago, and suddenly this happens. I would imagine that for aggression like this, there should be a reason. Say, I'm sorry, I don't want to live in the world where people can just do it just because one person, totalitarian person, decides to. It doesn't make sense. Anyone shouldn't feel safe in the world where it can happen.
Well, that's the world we're living in, and unfortunately it is not safe. Europe thought that they are safe. Unfortunately, no. Putin proved that nobody can be safe while he's there. Today, I've heard many analysis, and some people are saying that if Ukraine will hold on for 2 more days, just 2 more days, Putin's regime will fall. Would you agree with that?
I don't see it happening. Well, again, I don't know, and I don't know what this expert opinion is based on. I think that people in Russia these days, I think there is some polarization that is happening in the society, because people who maybe have had doubts about the regime, they are now coming to what it really is. But there is still a huge number of people who are just being fed with this disinformation, where Facebook, Twitter, they don't have access to it, they don't speak English, they might not have access to it, to proper information, and the official channels are telling the troops are just going with their mission through Ukraine, no casualties. And they are demilitarizing us and denazifying us. They are freeing Ukrainian people from what? From who?
From democracy.
Apparently.
They're trying to free Ukrainian people from democratic government, from democracy, from human rights, from good economy, from investment. They're trying to free Ukraine from good health service, from ability to go on a demonstration. So this is quite a difficult times, because the disinformation of Putin is massive. And when I hear Russian television, and for the last year, I've started listening to more and more Ukrainian television programs, I can see the drastic difference in mentality. Ukraine doesn't have that propaganda machine. Yes, you guys were discussing your problems, you were talking about things that are wrong and how to improve them, and you were arguing and making peace and talk about everything that was discussed in the society. In Russia, in Russian television, I don't see any sense at all. It is just constant argumentative lying machine. It is just a constant propaganda. And I don't know how many people, how many millions of people are subjected to it.
I think there are lots of explanations to that, and I don't want to blame people for that, because you need to step out to be able to see what you were in the first place, and people don't have a chance. Plus, the other reason probably is they don't want to feel excluded, and that's what is like feeding the system. But again, I really I really think that's what is happening with the war in Ukraine. People who see it as a war and who sooner or later will realize it is or was a war. I think the further polarization of the society will happen, and fewer people will be so blind. But I'm not sure if 2 days of Ukraine holding up will really be the key source of it.
Well, we are hoping we are hoping that in Russia the realization of what's happening is coming. That people start looking at casualties, they start understand what is really going on, and I don't know if you believe. I know some Ukrainians don't believe, but the captured soldiers, Russian soldiers, saying that they were not told where they were going, and they thought that this is the prolongation of their military activities. I believe it because they could be lied to as well. I mean, I'm sure that there are some troops and some soldiers that just there, and people, Russian soldiers, 18 years old, who have no idea why they're there. Or you don't buy that?
I think some maybe. Some I think might be lying. Some might not have known before. Because I think Russian military practices, they were known before, because when those were studying exercises, then people were just sent to Chechnya and died there. It just, at the moment, I think for people it's very difficult to realize what's happening here, because they've been told there are no casualties at all, and their mothers, as we know a few already cases of people who were captured in Ukraine, don't know where their sons are. And even though they might have been captured yesterday, they still have not been told that. And they may have learned that from some journalists who may have reached out to them, that their sons are actually captured in Ukraine because they were sent for the military operation. Basically, they were sent to war. And when I think about that, it scares me even more. I feel so sorry for these mothers and for these guys, because if no one is here, if no one is fighting, if there is no war, how are they going to receive their bodies? Ukraine has asked for the assistance of Red Cross to help transport the bodies of the soldiers, Russian soldiers, back to Russia so that they can have the basic right of being buried, you know? I'm not really sure with the policy that is being held, if no one died here, no casualties, how these people are going to get buried, really? How their
I've heard
mothers are going to cry about them, I don't know.
I've heard about the like portable crematoriums that Russians were supposed to put up to burn the bodies and then just say that we don't know what happened.
Right, and leave their mothers for the rest of their lives questioning that.
I
And
would
not given a
believe
chance
that.
to mourn and to say goodbye.
Yeah, I would believe that because this is how Russia is. You know, that's how they treat people. This is how
So I
Putin
feel very
treats.
sorry for those mothers, and I feel very sorry for those people. I know they insulted Ukraine, knowingly or unknowingly, but I still feel very, very sorry for them.
It is very sorry state of the affairs, but I wonder. People telling that we should put the Russian subtitles, and I'm sorry we we didn't. Or maybe the subtitles will be automatic subtitles will be later. But I am really sorry about mothers in Ukraine as well, the Ukrainian mothers who are losing their children, and they how can I say, the war is the war, and they're going to be devastation on both sides. But I am sorry for mothers who are in Ukraine, the mothers of Ukrainian soldiers, because Ukrainian mothers were fighting for their freedom. The Ukraine fights for their freedom. And Russian mothers just let Vladimir Putin to do what he wants. Russia don't fight Vladimir Putin. Russian people just sitting there afraid. Same happens in Belarus. So I understand what happened. They did suppress society over 20 years or 27 years in Belarus. So there is absolutely nothing people can do in those very suppressive autocracies. And it is very, I'm really sorry for Ukrainians, because they did start building their democracy and Ukraine became more and more successful. And I think they were one step away from really show how successful a country can be when the country is coming out of Russian control. Do you think that could contribute to the situation?
I'm sure it can contribute to the situation. There probably is more than just one factor, and yeah, I would imagine if we had some leader in Ukraine who would be just another, I don't want to call names, but there could be someone who would be just doing what Putin wants. There wouldn't be a situation like that. But apparently, in his speeches, he seemed to refer on a few occasions to Ukrainian regime, which he wants to change. So everyone expected it after that speech. I think after he recognized the independence of the two republics, Ukraine of the LNR and the DNR. I think it was already clear he will try to attack. He will start the war, and
Yeah, I understand that. I remember when Vladimir Zelensky in München, he started talking about Budapest Memorandum and the guarantee of sovereignty to Ukraine. And if those guarantees cannot be fulfilled, Ukraine can start developing nuclear weapons. And this is what Budapest Memorandum was all about. Did you ever think about it, that with the nuclear weapons, Ukraine could have been much stronger?
well, you can't help but think these days what would have happened if, yeah. Again, being like very much against any kind of war, I think, yeah, having a nuclear power itself without using it makes you stronger. So, and with the neighbor like we have, it looks like that's the only force that they understand. But seriously, that's the conversation, and I think we all are extremely afraid of, and we shouldn't be having it. Like, it's actually very scary that we start discussing these things as if they are part of normal life. I think there shouldn't be nuclear power used. I think there shouldn't be any war. And Russia has started it. And I was asked today, actually, by a German journalist, how do I think these things will finish? What will be the end of it? And that's the thing, if I'm all for fights to stop, but if Ukraine stops fighting, Ukraine stops to exist. If Russia stops fighting, there will be peace.
That's true. That's very true. I'm only hoping that Ukraine will hold on, and that weapons that are coming now from Poland, and there are more weapons, there are more supplies, and Ukraine will stay firm, and the Russians who are currently in Ukraine will just stop their advance, and just troops will just stop, or at least some of them, or at least
Well,
partially.
we're also very much outnumbered. I don't think the weapons only will be enough, I'm afraid. We are asking for some more intervention from NATO, at least protecting our skies. This is extremely important for Ukrainian troops, because they're already doing more than any human being would be able to.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I think we can now show the interview with Anna Levitska, with whom I talked yesterday, Alena's friend, who is now hiding in Kiev and hiding near Kiev. She managed to get out of the capital, and she's now there. And I've asked her specifically what the West can do, and she sent me the recording of her words, and I think we could put it on and just listen to what she said.
Okay, so now I'm sitting in a very old house with a very old wall, a kind of a basement we are hiding in from the bomb shellings, possible bomb shellings, because here in this village everything is quite calm. Okay, so what European Union can do? Actually, the European Union is doing a lot. Providing lots of different sanctions, but sanctions can be stronger in economical and energetic sphere, first of all. What also all the countries can do separately is refusing buying Russian gas and oil, especially oil, because this is the main part of Russian budget, actually. So the second one, prohibiting 2 Russian ships going to the ports of different cities in the world. So when Russian ships can stop in different ports, they lose lots of money. So you can beat them in this sphere, in this part of their economic too. So the next one could be, for example, banning Russians from getting their visas to European Union, because we all know that that they like to have their vacations in Europe, to educate their children in Europe, etc., etc. Also, I know that the Council of Europe has done the step we've been waiting for a long time. The Council of Europe has expelled Russia from its members. That's something I know from Deutsche Welle and their sources. So I really congratulate this step, but I would like to say that it should be done much earlier. About different international organizations, United Nations. So we all do really need Russia to be expelled from the Security Council, because the terroristic state has no right to be the member of Security Council and have the right of veto on different important decisions. And I would be for expelling Russia even from United Nations in general. What also could be done? I think that this list can be continued and everyone can contribute in this list, but most of all, yes, I think that economical and diplomatical steps can be prolonged. Oh, by the way, yes, SWIFT, we are waiting that Russia is cut off from SWIFT financial system. So, but yes, in any case, this list can be prolonged. Thank you for your attention, and we are looking for your support.
That was message from Anna from Kiev, and some points of her speech are already getting fulfilled, and I'm hoping that she will see her dreams coming true, because I can see massive response in European public, in the population, in the general population. I think everybody can see what Russia is about, what Vladimir Putin is about, and I think people of Europe would like to stop it. And hopefully, things that they thought will not be coming up are now coming up, and I'm hoping that the dreams will come true and the war in Ukraine will stop. Well, I think we should all stop now and go and have a cup of tea and maybe go to bed. I'm sure nobody can sleep properly those days. And
sorry for that, but we still have the demonstrations.
We still have demonstration. All right, then we can just watch the demonstrations.
Roger, I will be leaving. I'm wishing us all strength in this fight.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Lena. Thank you for coming. This is the demonstration in London today, and the same demonstration was the
It's like if people don't actually have contacts or the financial means to do it.
There were many people today who were asking for support for troops on the ground, for boots on the ground, for soldiers that can help to fight Putin and his army.
I'm now on number 10 Downing Street, and as you can see, there is a huge demonstration in support of Ukraine and against war in Ukraine. Number of people in London gathered today to stop the war in Ukraine, to stop the aggression of Vladimir Putin. Everywhere you can see people asking, stop the war, support the Ukrainian army, stop killing Ukrainian children, and bring peace to Ukraine. This place is very symbolic because this is the memorial in London to women and to military forces who died in the Second World War, in the First World War, in all the wars that already happened in Europe. We don't need another war in Europe. We don't need it now. Our countries did a lot to stop the war around Europe. And now, unfortunately, Vladimir Putin brings the war back to Europe. We need to stop it. And we ask in the world to help us to stop him. And Ukrainians today ask in the world to stop aggression of Putin.
Right, I'm just reading a message that was sent from Kiev about the guy who was supposed to be here with us on the program, and he's writing that they say that there is a very high probability that tonight in Kiev there will be hail attacks. That is, the air defense will not be able to repel the hail. Please, those in Kiev, spend the night in the bomb shelter, especially if you live on high floors, because high floors are the biggest risk. The night will definitely not be quiet. Hold on. This is alarm. We go for now. So I think he was going to the shelter himself and couldn't come tonight. And this is the sad events that are unfolding all the time in Ukraine, but for us today in London and wherever you are safe, it's a very good night. And let's pray for Ukraine, pray for them to survive. Thank you very much for your attention. Good night to everybody.
Thank you.